Welcome to the Empowered Women Life Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Karen Bashford. This podcast is for every woman who has ever felt limited by her past, silenced by trauma, or held back by society's expectations. Each week, we will share powerful stories, expert insights, and practical tools to help you become the leader of your own life. And today, I want to welcome Clare Waters. Now, Clare is somebody I've only recently met through LinkedIn. However, it was an interesting start in the sense that Clare reached out to me and said, how do you change somebody's life in 90 minutes? Now, I responded by simply saying, well, let me explain, but let's do a phone call. So we did. And we discovered that we have very similar stories. Terrible relationships, troublesome lives where things just didn't work for us, and consequently having to take responsibility of our own lives. And those lessons we've learned are what has caused me to do the journey I'm now on, and has caused Clare to actually create the Waters method. So welcome, Clare.
Well,
please tell us a bit about yourself. And if you're watching on the video, we are doing this live in reality. And you will see in the background, there are cars moving by and such like, because this is living the ideal life of working and living how you want to live. And Clare is doing that. So the only way we could have this conversation was in Clare's car. So Clare, please go ahead and tell us a bit about yourself.
Thanks, Karen. One thing I would like to say is when I asked that question, it was written, so you won't know the emphasis was on how do you change someone's life in 90 minutes, because that's probably a similar claim that I would make. So I was really interested in your approach. Yeah, so I'm Claire. Yeah, I've been developing the Walters method since 2010. It's been a slow evolution, really. I call myself a magpie. So I pick and choose from the great master teachers, all my spiritual learnings, and made something that's authentic for me. And I can teach to people, give them a toolkit to change from feeling low self-worth, scared, anxious, ashamed, whatever it is, to feeling empowered and worthy and with direction in their lives in sometimes an hour, sometimes 3 sessions. So that was a similar claim that I was curious about when I got in touch with you, Karen.
So tell me a bit about your background so listeners understand quite why what you've created is so powerful.
Right. So I think I kind of woke up to something not being brilliant in the way I manage my life, my relationships, after the love of my life left me. I had been left by the children's father before that and realized that was never really love. But then later, the love of my life left me. And it was at that point, as a massive crash, I think, and a massive essential that I reevaluated everything. And it's that moment of crisis, I think, when you do often, you're open to recognizing and looking inward as to what it was about me that was creating these disasters in my life. And so I went and trained as a journey practitioner. And the journey, like the Walters method, is very body-based, and it takes you directly to the root cause. So it took me directly to the very rigid childhood I had about how you should be, how you ought to be. And so I was trying to live by someone else's rules.
We all do that.
Expecting other people to live by somebody else's rules as well, instead of being the authentic me. And I suppose I'm still on that journey of becoming more authentic, but certainly now I would be very much more aware of the impact of my judgment and my rigid expectations have on a relationship. And I wouldn't want to be my partner back in the day, I can assure you.
It's interesting, isn't it, when we actually start looking inwards, quite how much we're imposing our beliefs and behaviors on somebody else. And yet they have their own beliefs and behaviors. And here we are in a relationship expecting it to work. And yet we've never had that opportunity to really sit down and look at ourselves, or even look at how we want the relationship to work. Because I think for me, there's often a lack of communication between couples, because we do bring, excuse the language, shit to our lives. And unless we're willing to sit down and talk about our previous issues with other relationships and such, how do we know we can make it work?
Yeah,
So
I
how
think
does,
the word in there
how,
is
sorry,
is authentic as well. So it requires you both really to be real and prepared to do that inward, um, just critical appraisal of how you are in the world, and dropping all that conditioning, all those judgments, all the ego drivers, and come from a loving, accepting, open place where those authentic conversations could happen. And it doesn't come easy. It takes, I think it often needs guidance or support to get to that place. Yeah.
and the Waters method, from what I understand of it, is initially to help somebody get to know themselves. And then if they choose to, if they're a coach or a therapist, to actually work with other clients. So tell me, how does the Waters method work? Because I know you're opening up a diploma for therapists and coaches and such like to utilize your method. So tell me, how would you start somebody off if they are wanting to get to know themselves better? Not necessarily because of the diploma, but simply because they want a better life.
Okay. Well, it's a felt sense approach. So what we'll tend to do is get people to pick a scenario, either at work where they felt belittled or felt angry or upset, just any scenario where they can replay, because they need to feel how it felt in their body at that time. Because it's that felt sense that allows you to go below the mind to the deeper drivers, if you like, the unconscious drivers. And by going to the felt sense, you can actually drop through and open up to those unconscious drivers, make them conscious, understand them with compassion, because I think it's really important to recognize we're all doing our best with the resources we have at the time. So it's with compassion and understanding of ourselves, so we can drop those ego drivers and find our authenticity. And we might need to do work around whatever we've got in that unconscious, because I call them um, software programs that we have in
Mm.
us. So it might be a trauma or stuff where we recognize when we're triggered in this way, we respond in that way. So for instance, you had a very imposing father who belittled you, not intentionally, but made you feel small and stupid. If you're in a conversation with someone who reminds you in a tiny way of your father, you will respond as a small, stupid child rather than your empowered adult. And that recognition and that choosing to step out of that feeling small into your power and responding from there is a complete game changer. And they're
It,
the sort of
mm.
exercises we teach people. Yeah.
It is understanding, isn't it, that no matter what we say to ourselves, there's always going to be that little child inside who feels judged, who feels abandoned or rejected or anything like that. And that's always going to play out unless you do something about changing that little girl or little boy's feeling of being rejected or not good enough or whatever. So, what do I want to ask? How does life change when you start making those tiny shifts? Because they can be tiny shifts, can't they? It's not as if you have a massive explosion and everything changes.
Oh, I'm
little
sorry. I would say I have to argue with that, Karen. Yes, people have a massive explosion and everything changes. Our feedback from our research trials we've done is that people have a life-changing experience, a transformational experience very often in an hour, because they do shift from that lifelong pattern of feeling victim, for instance, feeling so that's making them feel angry or frustrated or whatever, to recognizing that is their little child paying out and they can choose not to do it, and then to step into how it feels to be in their empowered adult. And then it is like a massive um explosion or shift, revelation, if you like. And I always say that people can never really go back from that, because once they're woken up in that way, they can recognize they have a choice. And I think it's that I have a choice how I respond now. Yeah,
it
you
is
may not in
that
the moment
change.
be able to, because if it's a very overpowering situation, your child may come out again, as you say, but you can practice more and more to think, oh, okay, that's my child responding. I'm going to choose not to go down that road. What would my empowered adult do?
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose you could say it's an explosion simply because once you make that change, that's it. You cannot go back. And that's what a lot of people do not realize is like you do the mindset shifting, but it's not the same, because with a mindset shift, you can still go back. Whereas with an actual feeling shift,
Yeah,
you never ever go back, because that feeling, those initial trigger points have been changed or released or just let go of.
exactly. I always say it's difference between when you've got a light on the dashboard, putting a sticking plaster over that light, so dealing with the symptom, or getting under the bonnet and fixing the issue. And I think both of us do the getting under the bonnet stuff.
Yeah,
And it's as quick as that. Change the spark plug, everything
yeah,
changes.
yeah,
Yeah,
precisely. It's like it's suddenly you're plugged in to something that you've been ignoring for so long. And it's like it's realizing that you can make that choice.
yeah,
There's not somebody in the background that was in your childhood, or for me previous life, even because I know a lot of my issues come from previous lives. And it's like somebody has suddenly gone, you don't need that anymore, so let's just take it out.
yeah, yeah. And it's becoming aware, isn't it? Because you have to have something conscious in order to ignore it. But if it's in your unconscious, you're on autopilot. And it's only when
Mm-hmm.
you do bring that into your consciousness, which is what the felt sense work does, that you can get to work. And that's why, quite often our sessions are very stand on their own. So you bring a session, you work on it, you go away and leave that change for a bit. And then after a while, there'll be something else that comes up, and then we'll work on that. It'll be like, maybe that's not the spark plug this time, that time, maybe it's the manifold. So you're kind of dropping baggage. I always say my clinic space is like the left luggage office at King's Cross. People leave their baggage in my room.
Yeah, and it is very much like that. But for me, especially, I discovered when I was starting to go through my own healing journey, it was like I went through a layer and released a whole load of stuff.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, so I've got to integrate this new being to then the next layer would appear. And it was like, oh, I need to now work on this layer. And that's how it works, isn't it? It's not a case of you just get to the deep level and then it's all gone. You have layers of healing you have to go through. And I think sometimes expectations are that you go for healing or you go for a session or whatever, and you're expecting everything to change. And that's when you start getting disappointed and consequently then start saying it hasn't worked,
Mm.
where it's not like that at all. It is literally layer by layer by layer.
It's a process, isn't it?
Mm.
That's what really started me out, because as I say, I became a journey practitioner. And in a journey process, you probably 2 hours, you're finding an issue, you're resolving it, you're doing the healing, and then you're doing something called forward integration. So how will that feel in the future without
Mm-hmm.
the wound? And the message is that you'll be done. one journey and you'll be sorted. Now, I wasn't too happy with that because, as you say, you have to live the change,
Yeah.
and there will be other stuff that comes up. It is a healing process, which is why I broke it down into small steps. So you do a step within an hour each time, and then you'll do a different step, possibly with a different exercise the next time. And it gives this idea that we're all on a journey. I always say when you're completely healed, it's probably time to shuffle off the planet, really, because I do think we're here really to do that healing in a way. Yeah,
Yes, I would agree with you on that basis because my attitude is that your soul is here to learn lessons.
yeah.
You've chosen to experience what you experience. And I never understand. And for me, it was like, why would I keep doing the same thing? I've learned the lesson, so why haven't I dealt with it? But that was because I didn't know that I could deal with it and release it. And for me, it was like, every acknowledgement of what's changed was taking me closer to that point where my soul was going to say, oh, you've learnt your lessons now. So now you can live life as you're supposed to be living it, not as you have been living it, which shifted so much. It allowed me to be calmer, more focused, actually listening to myself and my body rather than all this noise that was continually going on around me. So I presume under the Waters method, that is the same that happens for anyone that has a session.
And I think the interesting thing is, and I do warn people sometimes, is our the most difficult people to be authentic and grown up with is often your family.
Mm-hmm.
And the close people don't always want you to change because they're very comfortable with how your relationship is and how the dynamic is, and they'll try and push you back into the box.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's those people closest to you that are often the biggest challenge. It's quite easy to go into a new space and be this adult persona. But when people know exactly how to press your buttons, that's a whole different ball game. And I always say to people, you can always go to the loo and readjust yourself, reframe yourself, reset yourself, because these people will be the hardest. And often this is when the big life changes happen because you realize that a relationship isn't serving you. It's keeping you small, or or you've been lacking compassion, and actually you're better working within the relationship. More growth can happen within the relationship. But again, it's that ownership and
Mm-hmm.
choice that you then have. It's not about them having to change, it's about you recognizing your choices. I love that.
Yeah, and I agree because I noticed as I was, even before I went through the major shift, I was noticing that as I did little shifts within myself, and that's just from reading books or listening to something or just acknowledging that I wasn't particularly happy. Why wasn't I happy? It allowed the relationship I was in, which was not the best relationship, decidedly abusive. It actually started to change my response,
Mm.
but also his response,
Yes.
because no longer could he have the same control over
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. And you might not have liked that.
No, he
Mm.
really didn't. But it was an eye opener to realize that I had finally got the chance to say something that meant something. And he heard it because I had gained that inner knowing of myself.
And your tone is very different, isn't it? I think when you're coming from your authentic voice, it's calm and it's powerful and it is heard. Whereas when
Mm,
we're coming from our ego or our inner child, whatever you call it, it tends to be shrill and emotional, coming from our ego, if you like. And when we're coming from our ego, we get an ego response. So there's going to be a clash. Whereas if you come from your authentic self, you can you tend to get that different response, I think.
yeah, and do you find though that for me, especially because I was doing that inner work, even though the relationship was partly changing, it was never going to change enough because he had too much to catch up on.
Possibly, but it's having that openness of giving them the opportunity. And the other
Mm,
thing we do when you're trained to become a Walters Method practitioner, we learn the skills of teaching something called nonviolent communication and transaction analysis. Because once you're in your adult, you can focus on how you deliver what you say. Because you deliver as an adult to an adult, you'll get a different response as if you're coming from a sort of parental approach. It's like, you should do that, you ought to do that. Or when you tend to get a very bolshy, stubborn response. Or you're coming from your child where you're a bit victimy, blamey, blamey, whiny. But if you come from your adult, you're changing how you deliver what you want to say. Like, I'm feeling unheard. I noticed you just didn't hear what I said just now. Would you be willing to sit down and listen to what I say? You know, it's
Moral
learning.
authority, isn't there? There's moral authority in your voice.
Yeah,
You're
but
not.
it's not in a parental way. It's not
No.
making them feel small.
It's not making. It's like the inner child or the child that has been playing along has suddenly grown up and suddenly realised that actually I can say something.
And you have choices in how you respond as an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about the kind of people that you would like to invite to join the Waters method, either obviously as clients or for the diplomas you've now created. Tell us a bit more about that.
Okay. Nearly all the people who do train with us have experienced the Walters method for themselves. They've seen a profound shift in their lives, and they want to deliver this themselves, because we always say, as a practitioner, you gain more than you give almost. It's such rewarding work. So I'm particularly looking for people to become professional psychotherapists at the moment, people who want to change their careers. They maybe have burnt out in what they do. They might well be in the caring professions at the moment, nurses, social workers, teachers, you name it. And they feel they can't give any more because they're not getting back. They are perfect people to come and train with us. The only criterion is really that you need to be prepared to work on yourself, because the course is experiential. I demonstrate a technique, and you then work with your peers and you experience the technique and then guide someone else through the technique. So you're viscerally understanding what the technique does. And then the next weekend, we'll do a different technique. So you're building up this portfolio of exercises. And when you start building the competence, you start working with clients under supervision. So it's like a very supported course. So really, it could be a coach who feels they can't work with the deeper stuff because they feel nervous, they haven't got the toolkit. Well, we know we can work with whatever people present with, whatever trauma, whatever horrific story they present. We can say, I hear you, and just calmly be able to hear, and then teach them an exercise to help them. So it's often coaches like that, they can then do the deeper work as well. A lot of therapists, particularly maybe manual therapists, would like to do the Walters methods as well. So they can, when their client talks about an issue, they can say, I can help you with that. So it's really anybody who's got that desire, that hunger to do the work on themselves and then want to share it with others, I would say. So I'd say, if you're interested, talk to me and we can explore together if it is for you. That's simple, really.
And I'm assuming it's online rather than in person.
Well, it's 6 weekends and the bookend ones are in person, because that you get a kind of deeper connection with people when you've met them face to face. And then the 4 in between are online. And then there's supervision sessions as well, the one-to-ones, which can be online or in person, whatever suits you. So I think it's called a blended course, but it's just a weekend. So I'm feeling that people will be able to travel just twice in a year to do a face-to-face weekend. That's the hope anyway.
Yeah. So what am I feeling? Oh, okay. If you've not done any work on yourself, obviously you're not going to be able to just go straight in. So they really need to have done work on themselves first, or have done the sessions with you.
I'd say do one session with me, because when you do the course, you're doing those weekends when you are working on yourself, but you also get one-to-one supervision. So you'll be going on your own healing journey while you do the course. The reason I do a one-to-one with people before we start is to check they are open to doing that deep work and being vulnerable and rolling the sleeves up, really.
Yeah, because you need that vulnerability, don't you? You can't just do this work without being vulnerable.
No. And the
Yeah.
big thing about doing that weekend together is the depth of connection and trust we get between us is so strong. People make lifelong friends doing the course.
It's
Because
vital, isn't it?
nobody's superior. Everybody's got their own messy lives that they're bringing.
Yeah, yeah, I think we've all got messy lives somewhere along the line, that's for sure. So, sorry, tell me, how do we reach out to you? How do we connect with you?
Okay, well, you can go to the website, which is the Walters Method, all one word, .co.uk. Or I'm on WhatsApp, obviously Facebook and Instagram. And if you put the Walters Method into any of those, you should find me.
Okay, dead easy, the Waters Method.
The Walters Method, yes.
Okay. So where are you based, just so people know?
I'm in Yorkshire, I'm in Huddersfield. I'm part-time in Norfolk, which is why I'm sitting in a car at the moment. But my clinic is in Huddersfield, yeah.
Okay, so
And I
they'll be traveling to
think the
Huddersfield.
course, yeah, I think the course will be in Leeds probably, actually.
Okay, well, that's quite a good location to get to. It's a very
Yeah,
nice city as well. I've been there. I've spent a long time there at times. So
it's
yeah, very
lovely.
nice city.
Yeah, yeah.
So when does it start? I think that's vital as well.
4th of October.
So I will get this out as soon as possible for you, so you've got time to actually connect with Claire and make inquiries or sign up if you want to. So Claire,
Just one
what,
last thing to say, Karen.
please? Yeah.
If you really work on the course, there's support for you to have that diploma and be a professional psychotherapist in a year. Although the expectation is it may take you 2, that's fine. But just to know, just it's not a lengthy course. Thank you. I just wanted to get that in,
No,
Karen.
that's great, because obviously time is important and the commitment for yourself and doing the work is important. So knowing that there is a time frame, because I think sometimes you don't realize what you're committing to. You don't realize that actually you've got to do the work.
Yes.
You can't get the diploma if you don't do the work. So yeah. So what was the one thing that you would want to share with the listeners to help them move forward?
Change doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't mean talking about and revisiting your trauma and talking about it endlessly. It's a matter of feeling how it felt and resolving that feeling so you're then free, and you can do that within the hour. So I'd say don't worry, trust the process, because we have the evidence base now that it's highly effective. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Claire, for that. It's been great talking to you and lovely to hear more about the Waters Method. And as I say, I will be sharing the links. This will be going out fairly soon. So if anyone's interested in joining the training, please reach out to Claire. She's a beautiful person, as you can see. She has so much history and created such a great course, because I've actually looked at it. So I know it's good. So thank you, Claire, for your time today.
Thank you, Karen, for the opportunity. Really appreciate that.